Now, if you're ever working with a list and you have columns at the top that you always want to see no matter how far down you scroll, or you have rows on the side that you also always want to see no matter how far you scroll to the right, then what you need to do is freeze panes. So we've all done this before. We're working with our Excel list and we scroll down and the header disappears. Well, then you forget, well, is E the ship date or is that the order date? Is F the ship date or is that the order date? What exactly is going on here? Then you have to scroll all the way back at the top to figure it out. Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to freeze my first row so it stays in place while I scroll up and down. So to do that, what I want to do first is to click or select the cell in the row underneath the row that I want to freeze. So since I want to freeze my first row, what I'll do is I'll click on A2. So again, I'm clicking below where I want to freeze. And then in the View tab, go to Freeze Panes and Freeze Panes. Now in Excel 2010 and 2013, you can also click on Freeze Top Row. I'll go ahead and freeze panes. I'll now scroll down and you can see my first row stays where it's at and all the other rows scroll underneath. Now, just to show you, if I scroll a little bit over to the right-hand side, you know if you have a frozen pane, or in this case, a frozen row, if you look over and see there's this darker rule between my first and second rows, that's where this freezes. The border there is a little bit darker than the rest of my borders here in the sheet. Okay, let me scroll back over. And if I want to undo that, what I would do is I'd go back up to Freeze Panes and Unfreeze Panes. All right, well, let's say that I wanted to freeze the entire first column, column A. What I can do then is to click on B1, because I want to click in this case to the right of where I want to freeze. So B, the B column there. And I'm going to go to Freeze Panes. And again, I can just choose Freeze Panes or I can choose Freeze First Column. I'll choose Freeze Panes. And if you take a look, there's now, it might be a little bit harder to see, but the border between A and B has gotten a little bit darker. So I'm going to scroll over a little bit to the right. And you can see now that everything else is scrolling underneath A. And I'll go ahead and scroll back over so I can see B. All right, let me show you one more trick. So I'll go ahead and unfreeze that. So what if I wanted the first row to freeze and I wanted A to freeze? In that case, I would click on B2. I'm choosing B here because it's to the right of the column that I want to freeze, and I'm choosing 2 because it's underneath the row that I want to freeze. So with that selected, B2, I'll go to my Freeze Panes and click on Freeze Panes. So now I can scroll down and my first row stays, and I can scroll to the right and my first column stays. I will unfreeze that. And I can do that from anywhere on my sheet. I can click on F15 and go to Freeze Panes, and now I can scroll down and everything above 14 stays. I can scroll to the right and everything before F stays. So if you're doing a lot of scrolling, but you still need to see your information in your table in certain columns or certain rows, just go up to the View tab and choose Freeze Panes.